If you're feeling a bit of whiplash from the job market lately, you are definitely not alone. It seems like one headline is telling you to just stay put, ride out the storm, while the very next one says there's this historic talent shortage and it's the absolute best time to make a move. So, what is the real story for your career as we head into 2026? Let's unpack all these signals together and see if we can figure it out. And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's the one we're all wrestling with. It's that conversation happening in DMs over coffee, those late night sessions where you're just staring at your laptop. Is making a leap right now a totally brilliant move, or is it just a dangerous gamble? Well, the answer, as we're about to see, is a lot more complicated than a simple yes or no. And really, that's the core of it. 2026 is not like the job markets of the past. Some people are calling it a post-reset year. It's like the old rules just don't quite apply anymore. And it's this tension, this tightrope walk between massive opportunity on one side and some very real risk on the other that really defines this moment for all of us. So, to really get a handle on all this, we need to start by looking at this major contradiction that's sitting right at the heart of today's job market. I'm calling it the 2026 career paradox. Okay, check this out, because this slide really frames the entire puzzle perfectly. On one hand, you've got what's being called the Great Stay. A huge majority of workers, we're talking 65%, are basically digging in and saying, nope, not looking for a new job. But at the exact same time, you've got nearly 3/4 of employers throwing their hands up in the air, saying they can't find the skilled people they desperately need. So, how can both of those things possibly be true at once? Well, to solve that paradox, we have to look behind the numbers and really get inside the mindset of today's worker. And what that shows us is something we could call the anxious professional's reality. It all starts with a pretty healthy dose of fear. Almost a third of the workforce is actively worried about losing their job this year. And that kind of anxiety, it doesn't exactly inspire confident job hopping. No, it makes people want to keep their heads down and just hold on to what they've got. And then there's the burnout. And listen, this is not just some buzzword anymore. It has a staggering price tag. According to Gallup, employee burnout is costing the global economy $322 billion a year in lost productivity. People are just plain exhausted. And that level of exhaustion makes the idea of a stressful job search feel, well, completely overwhelming. This right here, this reveals a massive shift in our priorities. An absolutely staggering 88% of employees now say that their well-being at work is just as important as their salary. The whole hustle culture of the past, it's being replaced by a search for stability, for balance, and for a workplace that just doesn't drain them completely. So when you actually look at why people are staying, it's this weird mix of contentment and caution. Sure, almost a quarter are genuinely satisfied, and that's great. But look at the next two big reasons: economic uncertainty and a real belief that the grass just isn't any greener out there. It's this combination of fear and inertia that's really the engine driving the Great Stay. But, and this is a big but, while so many workers are anchored by this anxiety, there's a quiet but really powerful shift happening just under the surface. This is where the opportunity part of the paradox comes into play. The balance of power is tilting in a very surprising direction. And I think this quote from LinkedIn's CEO just captures the change perfectly. It's not just about your degree anymore, or the big company names on your resume. In 2026, the single most valuable asset you have is what you can do, your demonstrable skills. Those are the new currency in the world of work. And here's the proof. That talent shortage we talked about, it isn't just in one little niche sector. It is everywhere. I mean, look at this. From healthcare to IT to energy, over 70% of employers are struggling to hire. So here's the crucial point. If you have in-demand skills in these areas, you have leverage. Companies need you way more than you might think. All of this has led to the rise of a whole new approach, skills-based hiring. Companies are finally realizing that the best predictor of future success isn't a diploma you got 10 years ago, but a real-world test of what you can deliver today. And this just opens the door for so many people who learned through non-traditional paths. So if skills are the new currency and companies are desperate for that talent, how do you capitalize on this moment? Well, it's time to talk about rewriting the career playbook with some new, really actionable strategies. So the sources point to 4 really clear paths to future-proof your career. First up, upskill. And this isn't just about taking a random course. It's about gaining real literacy in game-changing areas like AI and data analysis. Second, switch, but do it strategically. Pivot to a field where demand is just structurally growing, something like cybersecurity. Third, build your brand, because in a skills-based world, your online presence, that's your new resume, and it allows opportunities to find you. And finally, you could consider freelancing to build autonomy and a more diversified income stream. Let's just zoom in on one specific area of opportunity, the green economy. This chart shows a massive gap. The demand for green talent is growing at more than double the rate of the supply. So for anyone who can build skills in things like sustainability and renewable energy, this is a huge opening. And what if you've been out of the workforce for a little while? Well, the rise of returnships is a total game changer. What started as this niche program at Goldman Sachs is now offered by over 100 major companies. And let's be clear, these are not internships. They're paid, they're structured, they're designed for experienced professionals, and get this, over 80% of people who do them land full-time jobs. And one final trend here is polyworking. Now, this is more than just a side hustle. It's a strategic way to build career resilience. So think of a graphic designer who also manages social media for a local charity, or a software engineer who consults on the side. By holding multiple roles, people are creating a financial safety net for themselves and diversifying their skills in a pretty uncertain economy. Okay, so we've seen the paradox, the anxiety, and all these surprising opportunities. I know, it's a lot to process. So how do you pull all of these threads together to actually navigate your own next chapter? Here is the key takeaway. In a market where anxiety is super high, the power has quietly shifted to those who have in-demand skills. And what this means is that the smartest career moves, they're not going to be the fastest ones. They're going to be the most informed ones, the ones that leverage that hidden power. And the good news is you don't have to figure all this out alone. There's a new ecosystem of support emerging that blends human expertise with intelligent tools. Think of career coaching platforms that use AI to identify your skills gaps and then map out potential career paths for you. It's all about getting structured support to make that informed move. So let's bring it all together with a really practical framework for you. On the stay side, if you see real paths for internal growth, if your benefits are strong, staying put might be the smart play right now. But on the switch side, if you feel like your role has stagnated or your skills just aren't aligned with where the world is going, well, it might be time to start preparing for a change. You see, ultimately, the stay or switch question is just too simple. The real question is about navigation. It's about understanding the landscape, knowing your destination, and then charting a deliberate course to get there. So as you think about your own career in 2026, the question you should be asking yourself is this: what's your next intentional move?